This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everybody. Am I audible to you and clear? Can anyone please respond? 71 Deepti. Am I audible to you? And can anyone please respond?
Yes, ma'am.
Audible and clear? Today my topic is nutrition. Okay. I am dealing with very boring topics. Previously, I have my classes about metabolic response. Now is about nutrition. I think in general surgery, these topics are won't taught by anybody. Okay, because these are very important in clinical aspect. And in general surgery, you have given 50% of weightage in your theory and your entrance exam for PG and entrance exam for super specialty everywhere this general topic has given 40% or 50% criteria weightage, and your final year part 1 and part 2 paper, again part 1 is of general surgery also, because and in surgery it is also having a significant proportion. Why means uh, preoperative assessment, intraoperative, and postoperative. The metabolic response to injury. We have said that surgery is also an injury, but with taking consent from the patient, we are doing surgery. That is also one kind of trauma. So metabolic response to trauma everywhere. There will be for surgery. There is we are creating a wound. That wound or anything or anastomosis or any mesh repair or thyroidectomy anywhere. This creates an inflammatory response, and this response is metabolic response. Metabolism means glucose, proteins, and fatty acid metabolism and inflammatory response. These are related to the nutrition of the patient. Okay, so when how means, for example, uh, when you are in hostel, you won't eat your food because due to your dislikes, likes, or aversion of food, or anyway, you won't eat food properly in the hostel. When you return from hostel for any holiday vacation, your mother will say in Telugu, exact term, "ఏంట్రా చిక్కిపోయావు, ఏంటమ్మా చిక్కిపోయావు," means how she will assess. She's assessing your nutritional status. Okay, uh, by how means your decrease in weight or general girth or body habitus is decreased, or and loosening of your clothes. This and immediately she will start feeding you with chicken proteins, high content of proteins, biryani, high content of fats, and she will add again ghee. Ghee means fat. These are saturated fats, a natural available fats. And after 1 week she she will stop. If you are more than, if your holidays is for more than months or 1 month or more than 2 weeks, your initially there will be chicken, mutton, fish, crab, everything will be in alternate days. After that you will gain weight and you will go into again normal diet you will go. So similarly, how your mother is assessing your nutritional status, similarly, we have to assess the nutritional status of the patient when the patient comes to you. Okay, when we are planning to a surgery, because small surgery there won't be much significance. When your holidays are 2 days or 1 day or 3 days, you won't get much nutrition or excessive nutrition from your home. When you have, when the surgery is major surgery like Whipple's gastrectomy or any intestinal resection, thoracic surgeries, or any surgery or trauma patches, there will be more. The patient with us will be in for more than 1 month or 2 weeks, like that way, and the response or injury to the patient is also very high. Okay, so the metabolic response obviously will be high, and we will keep the patient on starvation. Okay, Similarly, when you are at home, when you are during your childhood days, not childhood days, during your first year MBBS, everybody want bike, their own bike, or some want car. Initially, the parents won't buy. Later on, you will go for hunger strike. Okay, you will ask, and you won't eat, and you will lose weight. Then you will, initially 1 or 2 days, you won't lose weight. When you do this for more than 1 week or more than 2 days, 3 days, you are starting to lose weight for more than, I mean, how much? Around 2 weeks onwards, you will see a significant reduction in weight loss. Similarly, when you do a diet, in your diet plan, when you have more increased weight or you are obese, when you think you will go for the, dieting, you will start dieting, especially girls. Okay, they will decrease their consumption or overall food less than around 1500 kilocalories. So there won't be initial response, much response, but after 2 weeks, after 1 month only, you can see the response of decreasing the weight. That is normal response. But when the patient is when we admit a patient, initially we start with surgery, a preoperative instructions, nil paper mouth. Means we will keep 6 hours or 8 hours fasting. From that onwards, the patient is starting, we are starting the patient on starvation. So if a normal person, how will say the nutritional status is normal means basing on weight, limb girth, mid-arm circumference, BMI, and other parameters like serum proteins, how biochemically by serum proteins. These serum proteins indicate the nutritional status, chronic nutritional status of the patient, because the T half of albumin is around 20 days. Okay, albumin is only synthesized from the liver, and the protein synthesis only liver has the capability of protein synthesis. No other organ in the body had capability of protein synthesis. So T half of this 20 days, for more than 20 days, or when you have lost, weight, nutritional status, we can say chronic assessment of the nutritional status of the patient by serum albumin and hemoglobin levels, HP. These are all biochemical methods and investigations by ultrasound, CT, and indirect calorimetry, and all this nitrogen, other biochemically, urine nitrogen loss. We can calculate. These are the measurements, various measurements, but proved measurements are mid-arm circumference, loosening of claws, loosening of rings, ornaments, and all these are proved methods by it's not professional, or these are the proved methods of assessment of nutritional status of the patient. We'll ask the patient if there is any recent loss of weight. We don't know the patient, but we are first step. We'll ask in history, is there any loosening of claws, loosening of ring, or recent weight loss since 1 month or 6 months or 3 months? If there is more than 5% of weight loss in 3 months, or these are the criteria, approximately criteria. Through history, we can elicit the nutritional status of the patient. Okay. After assessing, we can categorize the patient with undernourished, normal, and over. And overnourishment is not that, malnourishment we consider. Obesity is not a good nutrition. Okay, there is no poor nutrition or a good nutrition or anything. Normal nutrition is there, undernutrition and malnutrition. Malnutrition, this obesity and everything will come under malnutrition. There are not normal or good nutrition. Okay, overweight or underweight, both are abnormal nutritional status of the patient. So if there is undernutrition, we have to improve the nutrition, because we are doing surgery. For minor surgeries, there will be hernia or lipoma or thyroid. There won't be much inflammatory response, and we will immediately start the patient on diet on evening. If we do morning surgery, we'll start on oral. We'll allow orals again. within 12 hours we allow orals, but after 1 day fasting you won't 12-day fasting or anything, you won't have any effects. We are giving simultaneously IV fluids, but if there is lipid surgery or mastectomy or not thyroidectomy, gastrectomy, fractures, femur fractures or cardiac surgeries or any head and neck surgeries, these all surgeries will keep the patient NBM for at least 3 to 4 days. All your glucogen or glycogen stores are depleted and your proteins will be mobilized. So your protein loss will be there. Our priority, the body thinks the wound healing, the surgery or anything is our priority. If the patient is initially undernourished, there won't be much or any proteins available, glycogen stores available for the wound healing. So the complication rates, leaks, you will get, if the albumin is less than 3, means definitely in the post-operative period there will be 50% of wound healing won't be there, wound gaping, wound infection, and anastomotic leaks will be there. All these complications will be present. So serum proteins, another serum proteins are all clotting factors. There will also clotting abnormality will be there. They will be related to bleeding and all these are increased. So these are complications we can reduce by the nutritional status. If there is undernourished, we have to give nutrition to this patient. Or if normal nutrition is there, if the patient is normal, means 18 to 25, the BMI is there. But if there is prolonged anticipated, means post-operative complications, for example, GIT or BPUS, there is leak, we won't allow the patient to take NVM. Okay, until the leak, or leak means nothing but if we anastomose stomach to the jejunum, that anastomosis will get leaked. Okay, then all the fluid from the stomach or jejunum will enter into the peritoneum. Peritoneum means peritonitis will be present. So it will lead to shock. These are the complications of anastomotic leak. If there is leak, we won't allow the patient to take any food. We will keep the patient in NVM. NVM for how long? How long means until the leak will be subsided or less than 100 ml per day. Okay, if then only we'll allow oral fluid, orals. Until then we won't allow. Means that much period we are starving the patient. If we didn't give nutrition, normally taking oral diet to this long period for 1 week or 2 weeks, means the patient will die. Okay, there won't be any wound healing. That anastomosis won't go for healing, or the surgery, the patient won't wake up. The post-operative period only the patient will die before discharge. So to prevent this, means we have to give nutrition. How you will give nutrition? Normally we take by oral. That is, oral means enteric means gut. Okay, through mouth we give, that is enteral nutrition, through GIT tract. If the patient is, means we are keeping the patient NBM, then how can we give nutrition to this patient? Means IV line, because after from gut all the nutrients will enter into the blood. So in the blood, through the blood we give, that is intravascular. Intravascular, again we have so many veins, only veins, we won't use arteries, never use arteries. Only arteries are used for injection only in chemotherapy. For very rare chemotherapies, for palliative therapy only we use arteries for any injections. Okay, we use only veins. Veins are again peripheral veins and central veins. Why peripheral and central? Means peripheral veins are narrow in caliber, easily thrombosed, and because all the food we are giving, means food consists of 3 components only. One is carbohydrate, one is fat, one is proteins. These are required for us. Okay, మనం ఇంత కష్టపడి ఇంత చదివి అన్ని చేసినా జస్ట్ ఫర్ ఓన్లీ కార్బోహైడ్రేట్స్, ప్రోటీన్స్ అండ్ ఫ్యాట్స్. ఇవి లేకపోతే హెల్త్ ఈస్ వెల్త్. వితౌట్ హెల్త్ దేర్ వోంట్ బి ఎనీ వెల్త్. ఎనీథింగ్, అవర్ మెయిన్ ప్రయారిటీ is health or nutrition. So these carbohydrates, fat and proteins, these are the 3 main components. And again, macronutrients and micronutrients and water. These 3 components. Okay, macronutrients are these carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, okay, and water. These three we have to give because patient is not taking, we are not giving through oral, okay. Then means we have to give IV. Or if the patient, we can give enteral nutrition. See, children immediately neonate less than 6 months we give only milk because he can only digest milk. After 6 months, just we start weaning, we give semi-solid food. What is the semi-solid food your mother or any parent will give means some amount of rice and ghee. Ghee is compulsory, or ghee or other form of oil. Okay, next vegetables, carrot, beans or other, they will mix. Okay, they will mix into fine semi-solid paste or porridge. Okay, even if you get fever, you won't eat biryani. Okay, they will give easily digestible. So if the patient, if we suppose if a patient is able, we are allowing oral enteral nutrition is possible for surgeries like head and neck and patients who are unconscious. See, CNS, there be subdural hematoma or any brain tumor where we cannot give oral or the patient is unconscious, but enteral route is intact. Means enteral means gut, GIT is intact, GIT is functioning. And pancreatitis cases, the patient is conscious, but we give enteral nutrition. See, in such conditions, when through nutrition through GIT is possible, we give enteral nutrition and parenteral nutrition. In enteral nutrition, GIT is normal. Normal means enteral means through GIT. Don't forget this terminology, okay? Don't get confused. Enteral means GIT is normal. Parenteral means parallel to the gut. Other than gut, we are using IV lines, IV and oral. Oral means we can, GIT is normal, but we cannot give nutrition. The difference between enteral nutrition and normal, we are also taking food through the mouth. But what is the difference between enteral nutrition and normal nutrition? Enteral nutrition means preformed, already semi-digested, crude forms in amino acids and monosaturated fatty acids or medium chain fatty acids and carbohydrates in the glucose. These are given in already partially digested food. Okay, so similarly, where we can give this in the 6 to 12 months age of the baby, we already smashed or use only this crude forms. Okay, Cerelac. In Cerelac also there will be component of glucose, monosaturated unfatty acids or amino acids, vitamins, minerals, all will be in the formulated or preformed powder. Okay, that we give to the baby. Then the baby will be very chubby. See the difference between Cerelac fed baby and normal fed baby. The Cerelac fed baby will be more chubby because already we are giving partially digested food through Cerelac. Only crude components, they are easily absorbed. But when we give crude form from the rice, dal or ghee, there will be difference between the weight gain and weight gain. So here our GIT is problematic. Okay, the patient cannot take. So we cannot give all the nutrients in the rice or dal or anything. So we will give crude form, already pre-digested, easily absorbable. Absorbable food in enteral nutrition. Again, enteral nutrition we give various routes are there. We means patient can be taken by oral or nasogastric tube. Nasogastric tube means a rice tube. We put a tube from the nose and enters into the stomach. Nasojejunal, from the nose to the jejunum. Percutaneous, these are the non-invasive. Just we keep it the bedside. Another procedure, we can keep tubes in the gut, stomach and jejunum by feeding jejunostomy and feeding gastrostomy. We take the patient to the OT, we give a midline incision and we keep a tube. of around 1 Dyes tube in the jejunum, and in the stomach, Malco's catheter. These are the catheters are tubes. Okay, we keep in the stomach and we suture it, and we take one end will be inside the stomach and another end will be outside. Okay, I will show you the pictures. So we give this nutrition pre-form hyperalimentation. Hyperalimentation, the term alimentation means easily digestible, pre-digested amino acids, amino acids, carbohydrates, and fats we give. That is hyperalimentation. So the patient can easily absorb and increase the nutrition, and we have to supplement water and micronutrients. Micronutrients are nothing but minerals and vitamins. So because all these are needed for the nutritional status or normal health of the patient. Okay, if we give through the IV line, okay, through the peripheral, any vein, cubital vein or any vein in the hand, that is peripheral vein. Because how long we can give this peripheral vein means, so we give glucose. Glucose is applied available in dextrose. Dextrose is nothing but glucose. Various concentrations will be there: 5%, 10%, 50%, 70%. In nutrition, we give 70% dextrose. This is very high osmolar. It causes endothelial injury and thrombophlebitis. So we cannot give these high osmolar fatty acids, proteins, and carbohydrates through the peripheral veins. Because of thrombophlebitis, we can give only up to less than 7 days. Okay, up to 7 days only. If we can give these total parenteral nutrition through the IV lines. If we are anticipating a prolonged nutrition, when we remove, in surgeries, there are conditions like where we have to remove all small bowel. Okay, jejunum and ileum, 5 meters of jejunum and ileum is removed. There won't be any gut to absorb these nutrients, or intestine to absorb these nutrients. Then obviously we have to keep the patient on TPN, or we have to transplant the intestine. Then only the patient can survive. So if we give this TPN for less than only we can give peripheral lines, we can only give up to 7 days. But in this condition, there will be long duration, more than 1 year, 2 years. The patient need TPN, or lifelong he have to need TPN. Only TPN means total parenteral nutrition only through IV lines only. Then we cannot use this peripheral lines. We have to go for central veins. Central veins are nothing but internal jugular vein, subclavian vein, and femoral vein. These are the main large veins. But femoral vein we won't give because of risk of DVT. Thrombophlebitis is very high. We should avoid subclavian, femoral vein. But we have to give subclavian vein or internal jugular vein. In these two, subclavian vein is ideal or most commonly used. IJV we use only for initial period, for emergency situations only, for temporary. Subclavian vein is the proper. We keep a catheter or central line into the subclavian vein, and we give the nutrition through this vein. Okay, there will be preformed, all this parenteral nutrition, there will be packet already available in the market, fixed composition of fat, proteins, minerals, and carbohydrates around of 2.5 liters, because this is the amount of water required. So we will calculate this total parenteral nutrition based on how much is the nutrition required. Daily we need only 2,100 kilocalories on an average. 70 kgs male or female will need 2,100 kilocalories. It have to be supplied from 3 components: fat, protein, and glucose, in the ratio of glucose 50%, fat 20%, and protein 30%. This is the calculations. You don't need that much. We have to calculate this. This is this much. So 2,100 kilocalories should be from fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. So we will give this nutrition through the IV line. Okay, each costs about 4,000 rupees. The packet itself. Okay, normal people cannot afford. So the patient, we ask them to prepare from the home. From the home, from the protein sources, we'll guide them to calculate their own TPL. So this is the brief introduction on nutrition. Okay, this is only very brief introduction. Again, the enteral nutrition and parenteral nutrition, there will be complications. Okay, uh, complications related to the nutrition, because we are directly giving the glucose and fats and proteins directly into the vein. Okay, there will be hyperglycemic episodes, war feeding will be there, uh, because absorption itself needs some energy. Okay, some energy is required for this absorption. So we are bypassing all this enteric system, and we are giving directly into the IV the glucose and triglycerides and amino acids, all the required amino acids. Okay, again, if you are prolongedly starvation, if you give sudden nutrition, means they will be refeeding syndrome. Means we are on feeding, the body gets confused and thinks that more amount of energy is there, so there will be electrolyte imbalances will be there, because all the mechanisms will restore. So there will be hypophosphatemia, hypercalcemia, hypermagnesemia. These are the symptoms, and hyperkalemia. Uh, this will get, that is refeeding syndrome. This electrolyte imbalance will lead to uh, arrhythmias. And again, water balance. Okay, fluid management. Fluid management comes under nutrition also, because in the ward we keep IV fluids. Okay, IV fluid means intravenous fluids. What are these IV fluids? Again, IV fluids are categorized into crystalloids, colloids. These are the crystalloids and colloids. What is the difference between crystalloids and colloids? What are crystalloids? What are colloids? Crystalloids are nothing but they can consist of water and electrolytes only. What are the normal electrolytes in the body? Means sodium, potassium, chloride, and bicarbonate. These are required. These are the normal electrolytes in the body. These are required for transmission. These are required for conduction and everything. And sodium, potassium, ATPase, enzymes, all this protein digestion or glucose or anything, uh, glucose movement into the cell, out into the cell, everything will be depending on these crystalloids, electrolytes, sodium, potassium, carbonate, and chloride mainly. Okay. Initially, how this means mineral water. Okay, sterilized mineral waters are nothing but crystalloids. Think like that. Okay, we give directly to the IV. Unsterilized are what we drink. So parallel. Orally we take water or mineral water. If we take through IV, they are crystalloids. And colloids. Colloids are if we take glucose water through the, glucon D or anything, if we mix in the water and we take orally, that is glucose water. If we give it IV and after sterilization and everything precautions, that is dextrose. That are colloids. Okay. Mixture of this is DNS, both glucose and electrolytes. If we keep sugar, salt and water, it is DNS. Okay. These are the IV fluids we use in surgical wards or medical ward or anyway. Okay, colloids we use only their proteins and high colloids, albumin solution and everything will be colloids. Okay, another is blood. Blood is separate chapter. So IV fluids, IV crystalloids. That is NS ringer lactate. NS means mainly content of salt, sodium chloride, 0.9%. Okay, ringer lactate, it will contain sodium, potassium, lactate, and bicarbonate also, some chloride. These are the components. Because why we need means we have to supplement water also. So water means we need water, food, Food is nothing but carbohydrates, glucose, fats, proteins, and minerals. Okay, minerals. So, and alkaloids we supply by these IV fluids. Okay, so we have to give this patient all these components. So IV fluids are required because we have to means we drink how many liters means around 2 liters. Okay, our GI secretion, gastric juice itself is 1.5 liter. Saliva is 1 liter per day, and pancreatic juices and duodenal secretions of again 1.5 liters. 2 liters what we drink around these all juices we will get 8 liters of water, but what is lost in the feces is about 150 ml only. During defecation we lose only 150 ml, and urine output will be around 2 liters, 1.5 liters. So 8 liters, 2.5 liters. Okay, 2 liters, around 2 liters is lost. Other insensible losses are through lung. We lose around 500 ml, through skin around 400 ml we lose. So we have to calculate input and output. So balanced urine output should be maintained. Okay, then only we can the patient or nutrition is good. Okay, so we have to give um, this IV fluids, and water intake is around 330 to 40 ml per kg per day. This is the requirement of water. All this must be calculated. So it's very difficult topic, but it is very, very important because post-operative period we have to maintain the nutrition, IV fluids should be calculated, input and output, drain, and all this should be calculated. Then only the patient can survive without any complications like renal failure or wound complications or respiratory complications and anastomotic leaks. All this can be reduced. Okay. So that is the significance of nutrition. Brief concept. Do you understand? Or any doubts are there? Before going to slides, please can anyone please respond? IV fluids, water. Compare it like IV fluids means water we take. Okay, we drink water daily. Next, food, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. What we eat, and minerals. Again, proteins and vitamins will come mixed with this. So we have to give multivitamin also. Injections are available, multivitamin. We give 1 vial per day. So these are the requirements of nutrition. If we take a patient on parenteral or enteral nutrition, we have to see all this we have supplying or not. Okay. It is very, very difficult topic. In PGs also we have, if we maintain this nutrition only, we can minimize, because during our PG period, our assistant told this class to us. So in PG, in surgery department also we have units. Okay, second unit, third unit, first unit. So compared to our unit, when we compare, because enterocutaneous fistula where we have to use this nutrition and everything, there are minimum complications in our unit. Okay, and even anastomotic leaks means when there is perforation from the anastomosis is leak and there is 150 ml, 1500 ml or 2000, 3000 leaks, means they are very, very poor prognosis. They are also recovered without any surgery. So that is the significance of this nutrition. I am stressing means very, very, very important at nutritional part. If you have become a surgeon or any physician also, if your immunity power, your nutrition, your healing capacity, everything depends upon this nutrition. If you didn't assess the patient nutritional status at the OP, initially in your medical department or surgery department or gynec department, if you didn't take care of this nutritional status, because in your case taking there will be general examination. General examination itself is having itself is nothing but assessing the nutritional status. This component, because in your case sheet history taking, there will be components of history, general examination, and local examination. This general examination is completely focused on the nutritional status of the patient only. If you didn't assess the nutrition status of the patient properly, means you will land in your grave. That because it is very important in surgery or medicine. If it will indirectly indicates the healing power, okay, healing capacity of this patient. Even under nutrition or over nutrition, both there will be complications. Obesity and undernutrition, both are having complications. See, even if you're in corona status, current situation also, the obese patient or any nutritional means we are asking the immunity power, boosting the immunity power. This immunity power is nothing but the lymphocytes, neutrophils, and monocytes. What they require? They require only this nutrition. What carbohydrates, proteins, and uh, these fats. They means monoclonal antibodies. They are proteins. Cytokines. They are proteins. All this immune boosting or immunity power, uh, glutamine. There are specific amino acids are there. They are required for this immunity power or immunity boosting. So everything healing power or attack of this virus or any inflammatory response, this metabolic response, everything, uh, this respiratory failure, this stress, what they are facing is nothing but this systemic inflammatory response. That is the metabolic response to the injury. So if it is more, if coronavirus is affected, there will be going into ARDS. Okay, ARDS is a component of systemic inflammatory response. If there is minimum viral load, there won't be much symptoms. That is graded response to the injury. If there is maximum viral load or viral load is more, then they will landing into more inflammatory response. More inflammatory response is attacking the lungs. That is ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome. So this is the significance of this nutritional, metabolic response to injury and nutrition also. Okay. Any doubts? All of you. Can anyone please respond? Any doubts are there?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Do you understand at least some concept of this nutrition response, inflammatory response, nutrition, how we will take? Are you fluid?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Really? Okay. I will just give you nutrition. Malnutrition, because it occurs in 30% of surgical patients and in GI diseases, and up to 60% in whom hospital stays are been prolonged. Because neurosurgery, medical paralysis, and everything, there will be all this nutrition. Patient will go into malnutrition. Metabolic response to starvation. This all responses I have dealt in the previous class. This is the table. Low plasma insulin will be there, high plasma glucagon. These are the counter-regulatory hormones. That cortisol, glucagon, and norepinephrine. All this will stimulate the glycogenolysis, protein catabolism, and hepatic gluconeogenesis, lipolysis, and ketogenesis. Adaptive ketogenesis is nothing but the brain will survive on ketone bodies after 1 week. So this ketogenesis will be increased. It is a protein sparing effect. Proteins, usually the brain or nervous system will need glucose, but in starvation it will use ketone bodies. Metabolic response to trauma. See again, this one, reduction in resting energy expenditure means normally we require 25 to 30 kilocalories per kg per day, 15 to 20 kilocalories per kg per day. See, if you go doing dieting, okay, you are decreasing. Only if you do only dieting, means only if you arrest you, decrease consumption of food, your basal. See, if you are taking 3 meals per day initially, and intermittently you are taking snacks, burger or pizza or anything, after starting your dieting plan, if you reduce your energy intake, okay, intake means you are eating only proteins, 1 day meal or 2 day meal program, you are decreasing your consumption. your body thinks that you are starving. Okay, it will decrease your resting energy expenditure also from 25 to 30 kilocalories per day to 15-20 kilocalories per day. So they will say, even I am dieting also, I am not reducing. I am not reducing my body weight, means this is the reason. So you have to combine. If you any dieting means, you have to increase your resting energy also. Resting energy expenditure is increased by the exercise. Okay, so we have to combine both exercise and decrease the calorie intake, then only we reduce your weight. No, exercise means not vigorous exercise also. You can do basic, at least you have to do walking or jogging, then only your basal energy expenditure or basal metabolic rate won't decrease. Okay. If it decreases means all it will go, rest of the energy will conserve, I mean, again convert into fat. That is the reason, right? You have to do dieting plus decrease in calorie consumption and also exercise. Metabolic response to trauma and sepsis. Okay, these are increased energy requirement, increased nitrogen requirement, and all these insulin resistance and glucose intolerance we have to deal in the postoperative period. Nutritional assessment, there is no single biochemical measurement. Okay, albumin is not a measure of nutrition status, particularly in acute setting, only in chronic level, chronic nutritional status. Serum albumin level 30, I mean 3 milligrams per deciliter is poor prognosis. If preoperatively, if the serum protein, see, if a major surgery we are planning means, we will take HP, serum albumin or serum protein, we will measure. If the nutritional status is, if there is serum albumin level less than 3, then we will give pre-operative nutrition. We will infuse albumin. We give blood, fresh frozen plasma proteins. All this we give, because otherwise the complications will be increased. Unintentional weight loss of more than 10% of a patient weight in the preceding 6 months is unintentional, not intentional weight loss or dieting. Okay, that is we call poor not a good prognostic indicator. Okay, BMI less than 18.5. BMI is nothing but weight by height in meters square. We calculate, if BMI is less than 18.5, it is undernutrition. 18 to 25 or 24, it is normal nutrition. If more than 25, it is overweight. More than 30, we classify the weight, because not simply on weight per meter, weight in kgs per meter square. This is the BMI. Okay, in weight, in other, what is your BMI, they will calculate. According to this calculation only, we divide whether the patient is obese, overweight or underweight. Major changes in the fluid balances are very important. If we give excessive fluids, patient will become edematous. He won't increase. He will increase in weight, but edema, that is not good in post-operative period. Assessment is skin fold thickness and mid-arm circumference, and body fat and muscle mass. See, in your diet, in your weight loss clinics, so recently they are developing here colors or anything. They will first do BMI, then they will assess the body fat, and muscle mass is nothing but the lean body weight. Okay. See, they will say your lean body weight is normal, your body fat is excess. Your lean body mass means muscle weight, muscle and bony weight is good, means you are very high, I mean, very fit or normal. Okay, they will calculate, and according to that, they will guide you in your diet plan. Okay. So these are the nutritional assessment is your basic day-to-day life you will observe. So I am saying these are related to normal, because what we are doing. So so many patients will come. I am doing diet, but I am not taking. Your friends or you itself will know. You have to know your physiology of your nutrition, because to maintain a healthy normal BMI or normal nutrition status, you have to know what is the normal nutrition status, how you will calculate what is your normal weight, are we in the normal weight or no, what is our body composition, what diet we have to take to maintain our normal proteins or carbohydrates or anything. That is very important because our health is very, very important. We are starving or we are working this hard or anything means for our health only. Okay. And in surgical patient, there is malnutrition universal screening tool. This may come as your 2 marks question. Okay. This is 5-step screening tool to identify adults who are malnourished or under nutrition. It includes BMI, weight loss in 3 to 6 months, acute disease effect. Okay, it is again divided into 0, 1, 2. 0 means greater than 20 kg per meter square. 1 means 18.5 to 2. 2 means 18.5. We have to add this 4 and we have to divide the nutritional status. If it is low means they won't give any nutritional support or anything. If it is medium means there is undernutrition, we have to supplement them. If more than 2 minutes, we have to treat the patient. Okay, we have to supply these nutritions, carbohydrates, proteins, and everything. We have to give the patient to bring him into normal nutrition. If there is these calculations are not there, means clinical impression, very thin, cloths and jewelry have become loose fitting, or any disease, decreased food intake, or any disease is there. And fluid and electrolytes. See, these are the average daily water balance of a healthy adult. Okay, urine output will be around 1500 ml. Insensible loss will be 900, and around increases 10 ml of water is lost. Around at the total of 2500 ml is the output. So intake should be around here. Okay, 200 ml, not 200 ml, 2000 ml from the water, and 1000 ml from the food, and water from oxidation is 300 ml. Because all this Krebs cycle and everything, the component one, glucose is metabolized, water is one of the component, carbohydrate is the one component. Fluid losses are insensible losses. We have from lungs 400 ml is lost. If the patient is on a ventilator or tracheostomy, this water is lost. Water is nothing but humidifying the air lost in this process. Okay. Skin 600 to 100 ml per day is lost in the form of sweat, and feces 60 to 150 ml, urine 1500 ml per day. You have to give this fluid supplementation to the patient. Okay. And daily requirement of sodium is 50 to 90 millimoles per day. Potassium is 50 millimoles per day, and calcium 5 millimoles per day, and magnesium. And these are the composition of crystals and colloids. Okay, the colloids are nothing but gelatin, polygellin, and hydroxy starch. These are the components from the starch. Okay, Hemasil. See, this osmotic pressure is very high. We use only in hypovolemic shock. Okay, when the blood is not ready, we will use these colloids, and in burns patient only, where we use colloids normally. These are the crystalloids. Composition is sodium, potassium, calcium, and chloride, and lactate. This is nothing but mineral water, but it's sterilized mineral water with various composition. Concentrations are different. Okay, 0.9% is the normal select, and Hartmann's are nothing but Ringer lactate. Okay, we exchange, but Hartmann's and Ringer lactate are different. RL, NS, all the schools. These are the normal GI composition. See this. See, this composition of GI secretions is also sodium, potassium chloride, and bicarbonate only. So we have to replace with what is lost and what is lost. If blood is lost, means you have to give blood. If GI secretions in vomits and diarrhea, sodium, potassium, and chloride, and bicarbonate and water are lost. So oral rehydration solution itself also the sodium, potassium, chloride, and bicarbonate, glucose, and water composition. Okay, what is lost? We have to give that one. This GI secretion, either saliva or GI stomach secretion, duodenum secretion, ileum, and pancreatic secretions, all nothing but composed, basic composition, but concentration varies. Okay, sodium, potassium, chloride, bicarbonate, and glucose only. Monitoring, if we give a feeding regimen, we have to see daily weight, fluid balance. Fluid balance is nothing but calculating the input output. Output means urine output, fecal loss, and insensible loss we have to calculate. Like electrolytes, glucose, temperature. And weekly we have to go for calcium, magnesium, and mineral examination, protein, liver function test, triglyceride levels. Energy we give from normal requirement is 20 to 30 kilocalories per kg body weight. See, for example, just today and tomorrow, read the daily and approximately calculate your intake. Okay, what we normally require is 20 to 30 kilocalories per kg body weight. Suppose if your body weight is around 60 kg, uh, 60 kg, okay, you require 30 kilocalories per kg per day. Means 18. If we take 30 kilocalories, the upper end, and multiply with 60 kgs, it is around 1800 kilocalories per day. That is a normal requirement. If we calculate what our intake and everything, it will exceed more than 2500 kilocalories. Okay, then only we will get overweight or obesity. That is basic requirement. There will be up and downs depending upon your body weight. Okay, if your obese means you will get if my body weight is 100 kgs, then I will require 3000 kilocalories. Okay, that is very excessive. Normal basic your daily activities and everything means you need only 1800 to 2000 kilocalories. Basic means routine activity, your no, not exercise, your daily activity like wake up, brushing, you're doing your office work or your classes, on 8 hours of sleep and everything usually require 1800 to 2100 kilocalories only. That is the maximum upper limit we are taking. But we eat more than 3000 kilocalories. So we get obese. Okay. If you do exercise, you will consume this 800 kilocalories. So in your exercise or submission, treadmill or anything, they will calculate at the end 200 you have. Suppose you have done 15 minutes of treadmill at level 6, it will calculate at the end you have done so much meters. At the end of calculation, your energy consumption is 200 kilocalories. Okay, or 100 kilocalories. It is very difficult to get 200 kilocalories at 6. Okay, so they will calculate. So your excess consumption will be converted into energy. This is carbohydrates. 1 gram of 1 gram will give 4 kilocalories. If we burn 1 gram of glucose, we will get 4 kilocalories. Okay. If rice, so we have to convert all this into kilocalories. And fats, palmitic acid, stearic acid, or saturated fatty acids, unsaturated, oleic and linoleic. These are the sources. Basal requirement of glucose is 100 to 200 grams per day only. Only our body can absorb also this much only. If we eat excess, we are converting them into fatty acids. Okay. Nitrogen proteins is 0.1 to 0.15 grams per kg, around 1 to 1.5 grams per kg. That is the protein requirement. Vitamins and minerals, vitamin C, water soluble, fat soluble vitamins, zinc, iron, and magnesium. All these have been supplementation. See, in intestinal restriction, if we remove excessive. Shall I end here?
ఆప్తల్ క్లాస్ ఉంది మ్యామ్ ఇప్పుడు.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
థ్యాంక్ యూ మ్యామ్.
అర్థమైందా కొంచెం అన్న?
ఎస్ మ్యామ్.
It's a very important topic and very difficult topic to understand initially. Okay. Okay. Thank you. But very, very important because it deals about our nutrition and everything.